Okay, so ready to dive into another mystery.
Always ready. What do we got today?
Well, let's head down under. We're going way back to 1966, Australia Day. Picture this. Sun's out, a beautiful day at Glenelg Beach in Adelaide. Families everywhere, kids playing, the whole bit.
Sounds idyllic. What's the catch?
The catch is, this is the story of the Beaumont children. 3 kids just vanished from the beach. Poof, gone.
This is the one I've heard about, right? Never solved.
Right. 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Arna, and 4-year-old Grant. They were there 1 minute, playing in the sand, and then just gone. It's a case that's haunted Australia for decades. And it really kind of changed the way Australians thought about, everything, really, especially child safety.
I bet. I mean, to just disappear like that in broad daylight.
It's the kind of story that gets under your skin. So we're going to deep dive into what we know, what we don't know, and why this case still matters all these years later.
All right, let's hear it. What are we working with source-wise?
We've got quite the collection here. Witness statements, police reports, news articles from back then, even some more recent documentaries and podcasts that have revisited the case.
So a good mix of primary and secondary sources.
Yep. And it's amazing how each one kind of adds a new layer to the story, like pieces of a puzzle that never quite fit together.
I can imagine. So where do we start?
Well, with the facts. It's January 26, 1966, a public holiday. The Beaumont kids head off to Glenelg Beach, which was basically their local hangout. They'd been there loads of times before, no worries. Their mom, Nancy Beaumont, gave them some money and told them to be home by lunchtime.
He's pretty normal. For the time, right? Kids having that freedom.
Exactly. It was a different era. But lunch comes and goes. No kids. By the afternoon, Nancy's getting seriously worried. She starts asking around, checking with neighbors, and eventually...
she calls the police.
Right. And that's when this whole thing blows up. The police, the media, everyone descends on Glenelg Beach. It becomes this massive search operation.
I can only imagine the chaos. A missing child is bad enough, but 3.
Absolutely. And the details, they're just sparse. There are a few eyewitness accounts. People saw the kids playing on the beach, seemingly happy, with a tall, blonde man.
Okay, hold on. Tall, blonde man. That sounds like a pretty significant detail. Did anyone recognize him?
That's the thing. No one could definitively say who he was. Some folks thought they'd seen him around before, but nothing concrete. And that's really what kicks off all the speculation. Was he just some random guy on the beach? Or was he involved somehow?
I can see how that would fuel the mystery. So any leads on this guy?
Unfortunately, not really. There were sketches made based on descriptions, but they led nowhere. And then you've got all these theories springing up. Was it a lone predator? Was there some kind of organized crime angle like trafficking? Or, and this is really chilling, could it have been someone the children knew and trusted?
All possibilities, I guess. Though that last one is particularly disturbing.
Yeah. There was even one theory involving a local businessman who, get this, apparently confessed to the crime while under hypnosis.
Under hypnosis? That sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it?
It was never officially corroborated.
Right.
But it adds to the whole mystique of the case. And then you factor in the context of Australia in the 1960s. It was a time when, kids had a lot more freedom. Parents didn't think twice about letting them roam around.
So this just shattered that sense of security, huh?
Totally. The Beaumont case made people realize, hey, maybe things aren't as safe as we thought. It really shook Australia to its core. And for the Beaumont parents, I can't even imagine what they went through.
Must have been absolutely agonizing.
The not knowing, the waiting, the hoping, and the media just amplified it all. It became this national obsession.
Ah, yeah. The 24/7 news cycle wasn't quite there yet, but still, I bet this was all anyone could talk about.
Right. Every little detail, every new theory, it was splashed across the papers, on the radio. The whole country was gripped by this mystery.
And all that attention, I imagine it had some impact, right? Beyond just the immediate story.
It did. In a way, the Beaumont case was a turning point for child safety in Australia. Like a wake-up call that led to big changes.
What kind of changes?
Well, you start seeing stranger danger campaigns everywhere. Parents became way more cautious, more aware of the risks, and organizations dedicated to finding missing children started popping up all over the place.
So a really tragic case, but it sparked some positive action.
That's the silver lining, I guess. But even with all that, the Beaumont case itself remains unsolved. There were tons of leads over the years, some pretty compelling suspects. But nothing concrete ever came of it.
And what about the parents? Did they ever get any closure?
Sadly, no.
Yeah.
They lived with us their entire lives. The not knowing is just heartbreaking.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What really happened to those kids?
It does. And it kind of makes you think about other high-profile missing children's cases. Like, do you think the Beaumont case is Australia's equivalent of the Madeleine McCann case?
Interesting comparison. Both cases grabbed everyone's attention, changed how people thought about keeping kids safe, and, well, they just stayed in the public consciousness.
Exactly. And they both make you realize that even in seemingly safe, ordinary places, the unthinkable can happen.
It's a sobering thought. And it highlights how important it is to keep learning from these cases, to keep asking questions and keep working to protect kids.
Absolutely. So after this deep dive, I think what sticks with me is that feeling of unease, that things are not always what they seem. And that maybe, just maybe, the truth about what happened to the Beaumont children is still out there somewhere.
It might be. And who knows, maybe someday we'll get those answers. But for now, the mystery remains.
It does. And that's something we'll just have to live with.
Unfortunately, yeah.
All right. Well, that's our deep dive for today. Join us next time for another fascinating journey into the unknown.
Until then, keep those minds curious.